Apple's competitors have spent lots of time over the past few years deciding how a personal computer should look. Now, after years of engineering, it looks like they've reached a conclusion. They've decided it should look like a Macintosh. A lot of people in the press say that spells doom for Apple, but generally these are the same people who predict the doom of Apple every year. The only thing that changes is the competitor. Not too long ago, it was Next. Before that, OS 2. But even though our competitors may imitate the way Macintosh looks, they can't come close to the way it works. Today, we'll compare Microsoft Windows version 3 running on an IBM PS2 Model 70 with a Macintosh 2 CI to demonstrate that Macintosh really is the best personal computer, because it's the only personal computer with a unified architecture. And Apple is the only computer company that designs and builds all the fundamental parts of its system. As we'll see, that gives Macintosh big advantages in 4 key areas: ease of use, applications, networking, and future growth path. And these are advantages that Windows can't match, because where all the parts of the Macintosh, network, peripherals, hardware, operating system, and interface fit together as a unified whole, Windows has been added on top of DOS, which was not supported in the first place. Once that point is clear, it's easy to look past the surface of Windows and see how deep the advantages of Macintosh really are. Of all the advantages that Macintosh offers, the one people know the best is ease of use. That's what Windows is supposed to bring to the DOS-based world. But real ease of use can't be bolted on to an old-style PC. It has to be built in from the chips up, the way it's been built into the Macintosh from the very beginning, and the way every Macintosh user experiences it from the moment they open the Macintosh box. When it comes to setting up a Macintosh, for instance, all the user has to do is plug in a few cables. The software is already installed on the hard disk, so all the user does is plug in the power cord, hook up the monitor, attach the keyboard and mouse, hit the on button, and they're welcome to a happy Macintosh that's ready to run. But with the PC, plugging in the components is just the beginning, because users also have to format the hard disk and install the system software. Pretty complex task for somebody who's new to computers. After that, DOS will need to know what components are hooked up to the system, something the Macintosh understands automatically. Then it's time to set up Windows. In the time it takes to complete these procedures and get one PS2 up and running, many Macintosh systems could be unpacked and configured. Or, people who haven't worked with computers before could use the tour that comes with every Macintosh to learn the fundamentals of computing. That kind of tutorial is something that doesn't come with DOS or with Windows. Or they could use Balloon Help, a system-wide help function that lets users simply point at objects on the screen to learn what they are. With Balloon Help, a beginner can learn the basics of Macintosh in a matter of minutes, while more experienced users can turn on Balloon Help to refresh their skills in actual applications. And it's as easy to expand a Macintosh system as it is to set it up in the first place. With the SCSI connector, a standard feature on every Macintosh sold today, we can connect peripherals like a hard disk, a CD-ROM drive, a scanner in seconds, just by plugging them in. And we can have all of these devices hooked up to the Macintosh without using up any of its expansion slots. So we can add a second monitor, or even a third, and work with all of them at the same time. Now, let's see what it takes to configure our IBM system with the same kind of peripherals. Since the Model 70 doesn't offer SCSI as a standard feature, we'll have to install individual interface cards for each peripheral, using up every one of our expansion slots. And since the operating system can't recognize hardware without our help, we'll have to run installation programs to configure the devices properly. We can't add any extra monitors to the IBM PC because we've used up all the slots. But even if we had the room, the extra monitors wouldn't do it, because standard IBM PCs don't support more than one monitor at a time. We've seen that Macintosh has big advantages because of the way the hardware and software work together. But what if we ignore the hardware and just look at what the software can do? Some people say Windows matches the software features of Macintosh, but it just ain't so. Consider the Macintosh Finder, for instance. In this one environment, you can move, delete, and copy data files. Install and launch applications. We can even enhance our system by adding new capabilities like fonts and sounds, and all in the same intuitive way. That's the ease of use that made the Macintosh famous. It lets users do more with their computers without forcing them to learn more about their computers. And while Windows tries to duplicate that simplicity, it consistently falls short because DOS keeps getting in the way. The first thing to notice about Windows is that it has created two different panes, excuse the pun, Program Manager and File Manager. This combination of two applications looks like Macintosh, and it's supposed to approximate the environment found on the Macintosh desktop. Program Manager is used to launch application programs and data files, and File Manager is used to move, copy, and delete files on the hard disk. But unfortunately, File Manager and Program Manager are both built on top of DOS, and they don't talk to each other. If we make a change in one, the other program may not notice. For instance, suppose we want to move our word processor from the directory called Windows in File Manager into the directory called WordP to organize our directory tree. Moving the application files is easy enough. But then, when we go into Program Manager and double-click on the icon to launch the application, Windows gives us an error message. That's because Program Manager doesn't keep track of changes we made in File Manager. So when we click on the icon in Program Manager, it looks for the program in its old location. If this sounds confusing, imagine what it's like for a computer novice. To correct the problem, we have to use the Properties menu in Program Manager and type in the new DOS path name for the program. A simple change that would have been handled automatically on Macintosh throws Windows users back into DOS. In fact, Windows has to work with many of the traditional DOS limitations because it's built on top of DOS. So, where Macintosh gives us the freedom to call our files and folders whatever we like, Windows can only accept DOS file names with 8 characters or less, which forces you to create your own version of computer code. Where the Macintosh can respond when we make a physical change to the system, like inserting a diskette, Windows isn't so closely connected to the hardware. So when we put a diskette into the IBM PC, it doesn't notice until we tell the machine that the diskette is there. What's more, when we remove our first diskette, insert a new one, and try to look for a file, Windows displays the old diskette's directory. This forces us to use a new command, refresh Windows, just to look at the files that are actually in the drive. Macintosh does all of this automatically. When we're trying to tell the difference between Macintosh and Windows, it helps to look at a few applications to see what a world of difference there is. Because not only does Macintosh offer more applications than all other graphical environments combined, including Windows, Presentation Manager, New Wave, OSF Motif, Sun OpenLook, and Next, it also provides consistency across all those applications. So once users learn their first Macintosh application, they'll be well on their way to learning them all. This is the vision of computing that made the first Macintosh so revolutionary, and it still sets Macintosh apart today. Because from the beginning, Apple has understood that people want to use new computing tools without having to learn new computing rules. That's why we built a single consistent set of user interface tools into every Macintosh ever made, and developed stable, consistent interface guidelines so developers could create applications that all work the same familiar way. Of course, Windows is supposed to introduce consistency to the DOS-based world, but it's hard to get DOS software developers to agree on a common approach to interface design because these companies already have huge stakes in the interfaces they've already created, and because nobody has delivered clear leadership on interface design for Windows applications. So it's not surprising to find confusing inconsistencies in Windows applications, even those made by Microsoft. Take something as simple as highlighting a word and deleting it. In Microsoft Excel 3.0, double-clicking on a word will highlight it, and hitting the backspace key deletes it. But in Microsoft Project 1.0, also for Windows, double-clicking on a word does nothing at all. And when we highlight the word manually and hit the backspace key, only the last letter is deleted. Which poses the question, if Microsoft doesn't make Windows applications consistent, who will? But the Macintosh environment creates more advantages than consistency alone. It also allows applications to use additional functionality that Apple builds into the Macintosh. That includes multitasking. So not only is it easy to open multiple applications at the same time and move data from one to another, we can also use background printing to print long documents without pausing in our work. Copy files to and from diskettes or file servers without tying up your computer. And download files via modem while we're busy with other projects. With virtual memory, many Macintosh users can treat available space on their hard disk as additional memory, so they can enjoy all the benefits of multitasking with even more applications open at the same time without the expense of adding RAM to their systems. And every Macintosh application can automatically take advantage of the new TrueType outline fonts, which give even inexpensive printers like the Apple StyleWriter the ability to produce output that's close to typeset quality. And Apple has introduced a new feature to the Macintosh known as Publish and Subscribe. This feature allows us to copy and paste live information between different documents. So if we publish part of this Excel spreadsheet, then subscribe to it in a word processing document, we can revise our spreadsheet and our updates will appear in our word processing document automatically. What's more, the link will remain in place even if we move our spreadsheet to another folder or change its name. On a network, Publish and Subscribe becomes an even more useful tool because it lets us execute revisions and communicate our changes to other team members in a matter of seconds, so we can spend less time managing projects and more time getting them done. Windows offers a similar feature with its dynamic data exchange, which creates live links between documents. Unfortunately, only a limited number of Windows applications can support these links, and no DOS applications at all. And since the Live Links feature doesn't work across networks, it won't help people who need to work on collaborative projects. And if Windows ever does support hot links on a network, it will probably lead to additional frustrations. Because Windows manages links between applications the same way it manages everything else we've seen so far, with DOS paths and file names. So, if we decide to rename our spreadsheet in File Manager, perhaps to indicate that it's our latest version, the word processing document that links to it will no longer be able to find it. Can you imagine how frustrating problems like this would be in a workgroup setting? But the unique combination of power and ease of use in Macintosh means more than convenience. It also translates into superior performance. Several independent studies have shown that Macintosh programs generally run faster than their counterparts in Windows. And that superior speed is evident at every point in the Macintosh line. From the entry-level Classic, which finished a series of Ingram Laboratories benchmarks faster than 286 computers, to the Macintosh 2FX, which was faster than IBM and Compaq 486 computers. Here's the new Macintosh LC, Apple's lowest cost color computer being compared with a much more expensive 386 based PC. Both are running the same Microsoft PowerPoint slideshow as fast as they can. And as you can see, when the LC has already finished, the 386 PC is only halfway through. Which just goes to show that clock speeds and MIPS aren't the only factors that determine how fast a computer can run. Conventional wisdom has long held that MS-DOS platforms offer the best connectivity, but reality indicates otherwise, because industry experts say that Macintosh is actually the easiest personal computer to network. With a local talk network port built into every Macintosh ever sold, with a native networking protocol, AppleTalk, included in the Macintosh system software, and with networking applications that connect Macintosh with all the most widely used networking environments, including TCP/IP and OSI. But the important thing about networking in Macintosh is not just the connections we make, but the easy way we make those connections. For instance, in a small network, Macintosh users can share a laser printer simply by plugging their Macintosh computers together. There's no other hardware or software installation involved. In a larger business, Macintosh users can cut and paste information from other kinds of computers, even mainframes and mini-computers, in a completely Macintosh way. And with the new file sharing feature that now comes with every Macintosh, networking is even easier. File sharing allows individual Macintosh computers to share information with other computers without needing any additional software, network interface cards, or a dedicated file server. So, we can specify the portions of our hard disk that we want to share, the entire disk or individual folders. And of course, we can use the built-in security features to prevent access to part or all of our disk. And remember, this power now comes with every Macintosh right out of the box. Any Macintosh can share files on the network, and any Macintosh can retrieve them. Now compare this simplicity with what we have to do to share files between Windows machines. First, we'll have to install network interface cards in every machine. Then we will either need to assign one computer as a dedicated file server and install network software on every client, or purchase third-party file server software for every machine on the network. Then, we'll have to run Windows Setup to load the appropriate driver. And the saga continues when it's time to expand the network, because with Windows, every new device has to be configured on the file server before users will even know that it's there. Whereas with Macintosh, AppleTalk networking is so tightly integrated with the rest of the system that new resources become available as soon as they're plugged in. And since AppleTalk supports both Ethernet and token ring cabling, we can increase transmission speed without sacrificing simplicity. AppleTalk networks can communicate with other networks from other vendors, like IBM and Digital. What's more, the Macintosh connects to the standard server environments for Windows, Novell NetWare, and Microsoft LAN Manager. And while Windows makes networking easier than DOS, users may still get confused, because even though they work with icons in Program Manager, they still have to deal with a network that's organized according to the rules of DOS. Say, for instance, that a directory on the server contains the Excel application and our spreadsheet files. These icons in Program Manager represent our spreadsheet files on the server. When we double-click on the icon, Windows looks for Excel and launches our spreadsheet. But remember, Windows is based on DOS, so if the path name to this directory is changed, none of the spreadsheet icons will launch, which means that we'll have to find out the new path name for our spreadsheet file, enter that new path name for our icon, and then repeat this procedure for every Excel spreadsheet icon we have in Program Manager. Unfortunately, double-clicking still doesn't open the spreadsheets. We have to go to the File Manager and tell it the new path name to Excel by using the Associate command. And remember, every user on the network will have to go through all of these steps. So far, we've seen some of the advantages that set Macintosh computers apart. Now, let's look at what ties them all together. That's a track record of smooth, uninterrupted growth that includes the introduction of revolutionary new products like the laser writer, continuous enhancements like high-resolution color displays, and convenient multitasking. And since every Macintosh shares the same basic components and is based on the same unified design, they can all take advantage of these new innovations, which means the investment users made in a Macintosh 7 years ago is worth even more today. And since the most advanced Macintosh can still run applications created in 1984, the investment users made in information is safe as well. That kind of backward and forward compatibility simply isn't available in the DOS-based world, as the release of Windows 3.0 clearly shows. Numerous industry analysts say that Windows 3.0 requires at least an Intel 386SX processor to run acceptably. Therefore, about 85% of the PCs installed today won't run with adequate performance. Many Intel-based machines will need substantial upgrades to take advantage of Windows, including accelerator boards, additional memory, a larger hard disk, a mouse, a VGA monitor, and new applications. That's an upgrade investment Geek Magazine estimates at a suggested retail price between $2,500 and $1,700 per machine. And when users have completed the upgrade to Windows, they may have another upheaval to look forward to. This is because IBM says OS/2 is the operating system of the 90s, which faces today's PC users with a troubling dilemma. Should they commit to DOS, or Windows, or OS/2? And what if they guess wrong? Another myth that sprang up when Windows 3.0 was introduced was that Windows could deliver all the benefits of the Macintosh on a less expensive DOS-based machine. Now this is odd, considering the price of this Macintosh 2 CI is actually lower than this comparably equipped IBM Model 70. And it seems particularly strange given a recent article in Computer Reseller News which showed that Macintosh computers provide superior performance in graphics-based applications at prices that are much lower than the cost of comparably equipped IBM or Compaq PCs. Of course, PC clone companies charge less for their machines than IBM and Compaq. But the cost savings of a PC clone also come with some risk, that the manufacturer will go out of business, that product support will be spotty, that there may be incompatibility and product quality problems. And the new, lower-priced Macintosh systems are competitive with clones configured to run Windows with acceptable performance. But much more important, the cost of buying a computer is not the same as the cost of owning it. When you factor in training time and other ownership expenses, independent researchers, like Gartner Group, say Macintosh is thousands of dollars less expensive to own than a PC running Windows 3.0. The Macintosh has lower costs than the PC, and the Macintosh has much lower operations costs, which include the time spent trying to learn new aspects of their applications as they work. These savings go straight to the bottom line in improved productivity. Because with Macintosh, you can spend more time getting your work done instead of figuring out how to get your computer to work. Whenever you're comparing Macintosh against PCs, it's important to remember that Apple designed Macintosh as a complete system, not a patchwork of separate components that were retrofitted together. Because Apple understands the importance of the graphical interface, every Macintosh comes mouse and operating system, whereas with most DOS machines, the interface and the mouse are add-ons. You have to buy them separately. Because Apple understands how important it is to share information, all Macintosh computers sold today come with SuperDrive, a disk drive that can read and write to Macintosh, DOS, OS/2, and even Apple II disk. And with third-party products like SoftPC, Macintosh can run DOS and even Windows applications, so you can preserve your investment in software and information. Because Apple has foreseen the importance of sound in computing, every Macintosh comes with sophisticated sound hardware and software built in. So a Macintosh can do all this. That gives Macintosh users a jump on education.
And get Ronald back.
And now that the Macintosh 2SI and LC come with sound input capabilities built in, Macintosh users will have a jump on areas like voicemail too.
I know you're going to like the curve fit on this last set of data.
Because Apple understands the future of color in computing, Macintosh can display up to 16.8 million colors on screen without special software. Compare this with the majority of DOS machines, which still work with the VGA standard, which only offers 16 colors. Because Apple understands how important it is to put people in control of the computing environment, we developed HyperCard, the first application to give end users real programming power, and we ship it free with every Macintosh. As you can see, when you put Macintosh and Windows side by side, it doesn't take long to see the advantages of the Macintosh unified architecture. Greater ease of use, more consistent applications, built-in networking, and a smooth, uninterrupted growth path. But the real question is, what do these advantages mean? It's simple: more satisfied customers. That's what an independent research company, Diagnostic Research, found out when they interviewed MIS managers and Macintosh and Windows 3.0 users. Users rated Macintosh higher in ease of use. They also favored Macintosh for its performance as a business tool and for its ability to present ideas effectively. And when they were asked to recommend the purchase of a computer, users did what came naturally. They rated Macintosh higher again. MIS managers, meanwhile, also favored Macintosh in terms of ease of use. And they indicated that Macintosh training costs were lower as well, in dollars and in time. They also indicated that support time was more than 45% lower for Macintosh than for Windows. And when it came to overall satisfaction, both MIS managers and users indicated that Macintosh came out on top. That may be the most powerful Apple advantage of all, because satisfied customers are the most persuasive evidence we have of the real power of Macintosh.